All right, so we are here to learn how to clean up our Google Classroom, organize our Google Drive, get things sorted out and if you have a website, I'll touch a little bit on, if it's a Google site, sort of a quick tips for how to kind of, I call it reset. It's just sort of make certain pages not appear. So that's an option for you, as well as some tips for next year. Okay, to make your site really cool and swaggy. I'm almost 50 years old. I don't know if I'm allowed to use the word swaggy. Probably not. Um, Regardless, I learned about this from some other people, so I just want to give some respect out there to Chris Taylor, to Alice Keeler, my pal Trish Rofi from Edmonton Catholic, who's amazing. Learned so much from her. And Eric Kurtz. All these people, there's their Twitter handles. They're really, really super smart people, and they each have videos and posts and so on about the Google Classroom cleanup. What I've done in here for each of these particular tips. Oh, struggling. Anybody else having a hard time hearing me? I almost worry that my mic's coming in too hot. Oh, never mind, you got it. Is my mic too loud? Am I coming in hot? It's okay? Thanks, Simi. All right, good. Yeah, I started with this USB headset a little while ago. Better late than never, right? Last week. And some people said, whoa, it's coming in a little bit loud. Anyways, these are smart people to follow. What I've done in this particular slide deck here, and I'll go back up to the URL, the short URL. Maybe I'll just type that in here as well. What I've done is I've done screen recordings for all of these tips. So if you need to refer back to this slide deck, I look like a cool pilot. Thanks, Simi. Oh, man. Oh, you won. Yeah, so I've done screen recordings for all these in case you need to go back. You're like, I can't remember how to get rid of all the Google calendars. So anyways, we're going to hop in. We're going to start with Google Classroom, okay? And I'll do some live demos here. Step number 1, return all the student work. All right, we're going to go into Google Classroom here. If you'd like to kind of do this on the side, maybe you're not quite ready to do all of this cleanup stuff. Maybe you're still in the midst of it all, but being that this was our plan for being the final week of our live PD sessions for this school year, it would be my last chance to kind of share this with you. So what you want to do is you want to go in your Google Classroom. There is a place. I mean, you can manually go into each Google Classroom, but there's a much easier way. When you hit this little pancake stack, hamburger menu, different people call it different things. I don't know what you want to call it. When I go into this menu, there's a place down here called To Do. This is really handy, especially if you've got lots of different Google Classrooms. And it will just line up all the things from all the different Google Classrooms, things that you've assigned. And how much this is sort of work that needs to be reviewed. So what you can do where you see something that kind of has been reviewed or looked at, but you haven't really returned it yet. If you want the students to own that work again before you shut that Google Classroom down, you can go in to that particular assignment, just select all students and choose return. Because what happens is, now I'll just confirm that. What happens is when they turn that work in, it belongs to you. So if you were to delete that classroom, that work could be gone. And so give it back to them. If there are any comments you've put on things like Google Docs or slides, the comments will show up once you return it. So I just say, here, this is your work. It's now yours. So go to that to-do section and pick something that has some work that has been assigned. And then basically, once again, select all your students and then return. Now, unfortunately, it goes through assignment by assignment, okay? And there isn't a way, one big, huge button that says return everything. So But still, it does scan all of your Google Classrooms, so that's kind of nice. Now, do you have to return all the students' work? No, you don't have to, but it is kind of a nice thing to do if you want the students to have their work back before you shut down that particular Google Classroom. And so, yeah, just, if you ever need to see this particular video, just click on the play button. All right, number 2. Unenroll students. This one again is another optional one. Let's say you don't really want students to have access to this Google Classroom next year. Okay, you want to start fresh with a new group of students. You don't really want the new students the previous students to have access to all of the assignments and things like that ahead of time. So what I'm going to do, you can archive, and we're going to archive this Google Classroom in a moment, but another step you can do in that Google Classroom is go to the People tab. And then we can just select all our students. And what we're going to do is we're just going to remove them. Okay, just go remove. Let me just pick a different Google Classroom, just in case these particular students need anything. Oh, I already did that. So yeah, so basically, you just go to that People tab, find all the students, and go to Actions and Remove. It'll confirm, you sure you want to remove all these people? Yes, I do. And then that'll remove them. Thank you for the people who typed in the bit.ly there for the newcomer. Once I return it, is it gone? Let's say you wanted to access, good question. You want to access a piece of student work. So when you return it, you could, if you don't unenroll them, you could still theoretically, let's go to this particular Google Classroom. So you can still go all of your assignments, even though they have been returned, graded and returned, you can still click on the graded part and see that work. It'll take a moment to load up here. And so you still can, or maybe not. Oh, yes, there it is. So it is still there, it just took a moment to load. Sometimes, by the way, you go into some work, people have found that in Google Classroom, it's like, it's not there anymore. Where are their attachments? Just hit the refresh button. Sometimes just typing in a comment in the private comments will then somehow just kind of give the machine a little shake and it comes back. So it should still be there. Now, if you do unenroll them as well from your classroom, then it is probably gone. So if you see something you really like from an exemplar or a student sample, you have their permission, you can just open up that particular file and go File, Make a Copy, and or File, Download, and you can download your own copy for some of that. But yeah, you've returned the work, you unenroll all the students, and that is a way of sort of returning it all to them, but then you would lose some of that access, particularly if you unenroll the students. Okay. Another thing you can do is archive these classes. Look, I've got a whole bunch here. Well, not too many, but depending on how long you've been using Google Classroom, you may have so many here. So what makes a lot of sense is to archive these particular, notice it's not a delete button. Okay, this is the first step. Now, you may have put a lot of work into this. You've created lots of great learning activities for students. You have created lots of learning activities for students. You might want to reuse some of those assignments next year. Archiving it will still let you do that. So I'm going to just archive this particular classroom. Anything I don't want up there for next year, I would archive. And then in this little pancake stack menu, you can scroll right to the very bottom and you'll see a list there that says archived classes. So they kind of have these lines through it. They're kind of disabled, meaning students couldn't be active in those classes. They couldn't post if they have that permission anyways. So they couldn't actively be posting, nor could you. But they're just sort of sitting there in that archive. Now, if you want it gone forever, you can do a further step and go into this archive class and choose delete. And now it's gone. So I don't usually do this. I usually just leave it here in this archive class section. Now, if you archive a class and then you realize, oh no, I want this active again for whatever reason, you can just choose restore. Chris, to answer your question, wouldn't it save to the classroom folder in your Google Drive? If you return the work to the students, I believe it now goes back to them. I could be wrong. I'm not 100%. Yeah, you have one archived classroom, but you can't delete it. Really, what happens when you click on the three dots in the archived classes and choose delete? Does it give you an error message?
There are no three dots.
Oh, so do you see archived classes?
Yeah, it says archive classes, and it says, but maybe because I was the one who created it.
That's exactly why. Yeah, I was just about to say that if it's been created by a colleague and yeah, you are not the owner, then you won't be able to delete it.
Okay, thank you.
Great, no problem. So that's a really handy thing to do, is to archive all the Google Classrooms you're not going to be using for next year. We'll come back at a little bit later on. We will come back to how you can reuse posts next year. We're going to hit that later in the session. Okay, so those are my main tips for Google Classroom. The first one was return student work, unenroll students, and archive the old class. Do you have to do all of them? Not really. Just advice. Certainly archiving is the easiest thing to do out of all three. But I would unenroll students too if you don't want them to even be able to see what their previous assignment work was. Although I guess if you're returning it to them, they kind of have their own work back anyways in digital form. All right, so let's jump to Google Calendar. What you may notice, you may or may not have known this, but in Google Classroom, there's a calendar. And what it shows is links for you, for the students, to all the particular assignments and activities that had a due date listed. It's a handy way for the students to see it. So it's kind of built into Google Classroom, but what it also does is it's creating a calendar on Google Calendar. So if you go to calendar.google.com, now I did in the recording of these videos, I've cleaned mine up. But what you are going to see on yours, if you visit calendar.google.com, you're going to see a whole bunch of Google Calendars here, one for every Google Classroom that you were enrolled in, or that you created as a teacher. And probably if a colleague created it and you were invited as a co-teacher, you'll probably see the Google Calendar for that. In fact, you probably see even if you were a student in one of the Google Classrooms. Sometimes people do that for professional development purposes. So you have some options in terms of getting rid of these calendars, okay? One option, the sort of the least intrusive option for you, is simply to hit the three dots next to that calendar and you can choose hide from the list. So it won't be deleted. It'll just hide it off this list that may have 10 or 15 or 20 or who knows how many calendars might be there at this point in time, depending on how long you've been using Google Classroom and if you've ever noticed this before. So that's one option. Now, if you want to actually delete, there's another manual way to do that, and that is this. Take the three dots here next to the calendar, hover over the calendar, the three dots, and go to Settings and Sharing. Again, I've got a video for this. Now, here's a whole bunch of settings and sharing. Scroll right to the very, very, very bottom, and then delete. Now, if you don't own this calendar, let's say you were a part of someone else's Google Classroom, you may not see the option to delete it. You may just see the option to unsubscribe, and that's just fine because then it will just simply go off of your Google Calendar, if that makes sense. All right, no problem, Carolyn. Welcome and thanks for joining us. All right, so again, that is the option you have, is to delete, manually delete. Now, if you have a whole bunch of these, and I mean like 10 or 15 or 20, you may just have so many. There is another way. Now, Alice Keeler, who is a Google guru, let me move that up there. She has created, I'm on slide 10 now. She's created an awesome little script that will load up in a spreadsheet, and it will let you delete multiple calendars at once. A little bit tricky getting there. I'll show you how. So if you have this link, I'll just copy and paste in here. So for those of you who are curious, you can follow along with me. I just paste that in. There we go. So what you can do, first of all, she's got this template. Now it opens up in a Google Sheet, okay? Choose Make a Copy, and this will open up in Google Sheets momentarily after you've clicked the Make a Copy. Now you might have to give it a few seconds, but what's going to happen, she's coded this in using Google Apps Script, which is super cool, by the way. If you're into that, she has a whole online course on using Google Apps Script and creating these own little kind of programs that make your life easier. So just give it a moment. It says working here. What you'll see here in a moment is a new toolbar is going to show up, and it's called, I think it's called Delete Google Calendar, something like that. Anyways, essentially, let me just, while we're waiting for that to load, I'll scroll down in her particular blog post. So essentially, you're going to see this menu show up, Delete Classroom Calendars. And the first step will be to list those calendars. Let's see if it's here yet. There it is. So the first step is to go list calendars. Now, if you haven't used this before, you're going to have to authorize this particular app script to, do you give it permission to access your Google calendars? Yes or no? So that's what this is. This is what it's going to do. I'm going to say yes, I will allow it to access my Google Calendar list. And so what it'll do is it may take a few seconds, but it's going to populate. I just did this like an hour ago when I was making the video for it. So it's going to give you, let me just zoom in here. It's going to give you 3 columns. One has all of your calendars, the ID, and then delete. Right now, they're all set to no. So what you need to do for every one you'd like to delete is go over to the no and change it to delete. Okay, the word delete. Now, if you've got 100 of these, you don't want to type the word delete 100 times. When I click back on delete now, you see how there's this little dot? See that little dot on the spreadsheet? Watch, if I just drag this down, however far I drag it down, it's just going to copy that same entry that I just had. Paste it. It works with Excel too, by the way. So whatever you want repeated, just click on the little dot. Okay, just a little spreadsheet tip. So whichever one you want deleted, you put delete. Okay, so I've listed all the calendars. I've typed in the ones I want to delete. I go back to this little list here, this little menu. Now I'm going to choose delete calendars or delete and unsubscribe, because if I don't own the calendar, I can't delete it, but I can unsubscribe. I'm just going to keep delete calendar for now. So again, it's only going to delete this one, right? Watch what happens when I hit delete calendars. Alice gives us another reminder. Did you put delete in the right column? Column C for the ones you do want to delete. And if it's no, you can hit no and then go back and do it. But if it's yes, now it's going to run its script here, and boom, when it's deleted, now it's deleted, okay? And if I don't believe that, see, it's right here. So if I just hit refresh, it's gone. Now, it doesn't make sense to do this for one calendar, but if you've got 20 or 30 or 40, it might be worth it. So suit yourself. If that seemed too complicated, again, don't forget, you can just go here with the 3 dots, choose hide from my list, or go into those settings and sharing and scroll down, down, down and go to delete or unsubscribe. Okay, that is the Google Calendar piece. Google Drive. We love you. We hate you. It may be a jumbled mess of files at this point in time. You're working hard. You're creating stuff. You're copying stuff. You're making copies of things. Now it's time to clean it up. Really easy tips here for doing that. So when you open up your Google Drive, you'll see if you have any folders, they'll be listed at the top. There's this quick access at the very top. Those are just the most recent things you've been working on. Then you've got all your folders. Then you've got random files that are not in folders. They're just in the My Drive, okay? So you may have loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff in there. If you want to clean it up, you can do it. So to make folders, you can go up to the New button at the top. Just choose the top, click Folder, and you can make a brand new folder, okay? Now, in terms of organizing, drag and drop is really the easiest way to do this, okay? So if you want to, but at the same time, if I've got something way down here and I want this in my templates folder, well, my templates folder is way up there, okay? So how am I gonna get this over to my templates folder? Well, what you'll notice on the left side of your screen in Google Drive is next to My Drive, there's a little arrow. And all of the folders that you have here are also listed here. So my suggestion to you is to, if you want to drag and drop files into folders, open up this, expand this folder list here, and if you've got folders within folders within folders, you can just keep hitting those little arrows until you expand it to the level you want. But I want to put this particular one, this is a magazine cover created in Google Drawings. I want to put this in my templates folder right there. So I could just select it and then just drag it over to templates. It's blue, I just let go. Now, if you have any sharing privileges on that folder, sharing privileges like anyone with the link can view or anyone with the link can edit, anything you put in that folder will adopt those same sharing privileges. Aha, the great question, Genevieve. So I've moved this over now, it's in my templates folder, and if you don't believe me, I will just show you. There it is. I'll just go back. So here's my full list, and then here are all my little, I've also shown them on the side. So Genevieve has a question. Some of these have a little person and some do not. Anything with a person means that it's been shared in some way, okay? By the way, here's another big Google Drive tip for you. You will see in Google Drive in the upper right-hand corner a little eye icon, okay? I call it information, but it's really view details. I don't know why they have an I and then it's called view details, but to me, I just think, oh yeah, information. I always leave this open. This is super handy. So let's take this Pear Deck folder, has no person icon there, okay? It is owned by me. There it is, Pear Deck, I created it. Now let's look at this presentations one. It's got a little person there. Now it will show me, aha, who have I shared it with? Well, I'm the owner. Oh, I turned on link sharing. Anyone with the link can view. So if I've shared that folder with other individuals, I'll see their names here. I will also see if I've done the link sharing, it'll just show up as a link, okay? So for example, if any of you are using Screencastify, I always go to my Screencastify folder, I select it, and then I go up to the link sharing. Come on. Where is it? I go up to into here and I turn on the link, get a shareable link. And then I turn it on such that anyone with the link can view. Okay, that's a really handy way to do it. Can I unshare the file? Yeah, Absolutely, you can unshare it. So if I've got a file in here that I have shared with someone, I can unshare it. I can go back into the sharing, just select the file, maybe it's a Google Doc or slides, go click on the little person. If it's individual you've shared it with, you can, or groups of people, you can go up to this particular person. It'll give you a list here of all the people who you've shared it with, and you can unshare it. By the way, another helpful tip, if you've shared something with someone else, you are still the owner. But let's say you were leaving the school, you're a grade 4 teacher at school A, and you're going to teach grade 7 at school B. And if for whatever reason you wanted to make your replacement the owner, now that you've shared it with them, you can change ownership once you've shared it with them. You'll see this little option here. There'll be a list of people listed in there, and you'll see who can edit, can view, can whatever. You can just hit the little drop down there, and you can choose to make somebody the owner. You can do that with Google Classroom too. Somebody remind me at the end, if you're in a situation where you need to turn over a Google Classroom to another teacher, let's say it's a maternity leave or a medical leave or something like that. There is a way to lock your file such that, I'm just going to go back to my drive, such that no one, there are ways to do this. So for example, I can go into the sharing here, and I can go into the advanced sharing by clicking these. See this? This is a new kind of sharing interface as of the last couple of weeks in Google Drive. So let's say with this particular file, let's say I do want to have a link for people to view it, but I can go into the little settings gear. Maybe I don't want other people I share it with to be able to share it with other people. Or maybe I don't want the viewers and commenters to have the option to download it or print it or copy. So I can just uncheck that, and then even if they can view it, they won't be able to download it or print it or make their own copy. Now, can they do a screenshot? Yeah. Can they take a picture with their camera of the screen? Yeah, you can't fully get away from that, but there is a way to, in that settings gear, to do that. Okay, a couple more important things with Google Drive sharing. We only have about 12 minutes left, so I want to move on a little bit. We could do a whole session on Google Drive. Trust me, it's awesome. Now, another really handy thing you can do with your Google Drive folders is you can color code them. Okay, for the people the type A's in the room, they're like, this is awesome. So right-click on a folder, and you'll see change color. So you can change it to whatever color you want. There it is. Now it's a color, it stands out a little bit more. If you want to go a step further, you can add emoji. Emoji is just like a character you can type, right? So an emoji you can add into the names of anything, any files, any web pages, any Google Classrooms, any Google Classroom topics, you can add emoji. So I use the extension Emoji Keyboard, Emojis for Chrome, because what it'll let me do is I can even do a search, and let's say for my templates, I want like a file folder. So I'll just type file. All right, so let's say I want this. I click it, it's copied. Now I'm going to go into my templates name, and I'm going to choose rename. And I'm just going to go right to the beginning. It was copied, right? So how do we paste? Control V. Ah, look at that, little folder, or whatever emoji you want it. Now check it out. I currently have these sorted by name, so they're alphabetized. And so what happens is anytime you numbers come before letters, so if I had one and then the name of it, it would be bumped up to the top. But then the emoji also bumps it up, being the first in the alphabet. So if this is a really important folder for me, yeah, I can show the emoji thing again. In fact, why don't I show you, I'll share with you the Chrome Web Store link. So this is it, Emoji Keyboard Emojis for Chrome. There are others, but I like this one. There's a second reason I like this one that I'm about to show you. So what I did was I picked a particular, let's say this ATA one. I have no idea what emoji I'm going to come up with a happy face, because at the ATA, we're here to make you happy. I have a funny joke. The IT department, I used to work with next door with the IT department. I was the educational tech guy. But anyways, we used to say, at the IT department, we're not happy until you're not happy. Anyways, dad humor. But so to add in that emoji to this folder, I go to this emoji keyboard, I find what I want. Let's say I will do the smiley face, click it, it's down here, right? I could do 5 emojis if I felt like it. But now I'm just gonna hit copy, all right? Now I'm gonna go back over to my Google Drive folder, there it is, and I can right click on it and choose rename. Good so far? Okay, I'm just going to go to the very beginning of that. It doesn't really matter if you, now, Carolyn has asked me a very difficult question. I have no idea the answer. I don't know if emoji come before or after numbers. We should find out. I will turn in, rename this one here. We will find out. I will call this one 1. What do you think, everybody? Who's the winner going to be? Oh, looks like emoji come before numbers. So much potential for ELL and young kids. Yes, absolutely. Good point, Brianne. Okay, so that's how you can color code these folders. Highly recommended. Now, before we leave Google Drive, I know we're down to 8 minutes left here, so we're still on Google Drive, but I really want to show you an awesome feature. This might change your life. You may need to have a file in more than one place. Now, making a copy of a file is no big deal. People know how to do that. Okay, we can take any file that we have and we can just make a copy. That's easy. But you may just want the one file, not a copy of the file, the one file in multiple different places. For example, let's say there is a lesson template you worked on in science, and you have folders for language arts, math, science, or for your science folder. But let's say you also have a folder for your grade partners. Let's say you teach grade 8 science with 2 other people or a group of other people in other schools in your division. You can create a shared folder. You want that file to live in both places at the exact same time. This can happen. And it's super awesome because then when you change it in one place, it's changed everywhere else it is. And when you delete it in one place, it's deleted everywhere else, okay, if you're the owner. So how do I do that? Well, how you do that is, let's say I have something in my ATA folder. I'm just going to go into here. And let's say I want to make a copy of this in my templates folder. I don't, but let's just say I did. Select the file and then do this. You write this down. Actually, I put it in the presentation, but don't forget this. Shift Z. People, this could change your life. Shift Z. Shift Z. I know I'm being annoying, but I'll say it again. Shift Z. Burn it into your brain. Now, see this pop up here? It's green. And so now where do I want to add it to? So I'm just going to click this little arrow. We're going to drill through where I want it to go. So let's say I wanted to go in here. I can just select it there, but look, if I had files and folders inside folders, I could keep drilling down as far as I need to, and then click add. All right, that will put that file, now it's in ATA, but it is also in templates. See, there it is. Now, if you select that file, this is why I keep this little information button on. This is a really important piece because you have a superpower now with Shift Z. Be careful because if I delete it from here, it's going to delete it from the other place too. So what if I just want to delete it from one shared location? That's where a little information, more details comes into play. Watch this. I've selected the file. See under details? Look where it is. See? It's in 2 places. It's in ATA and it's in templates. See the little X's? pick the place you don't want it to be anymore. I'll remove it from templates. And boom, it's gone from there. But if I go back into ATA, it is still in here. So just that piece once again. Oh, Carly has heard they're getting rid of that function. I really hope they don't, because I find it awesome. Once again, if you want something in more than one place, select the file, Shift Z, and select the location in Google Drive you want it to go into. You can do that as many times as you want. Once you have it in multiple places, if you can't remember where it is or you want to remove access from one of those places, select the file, turn on your little, keep on your show details, go down to the location where it shows multiple different places and X the place you don't want it to go. If you want to delete it from everywhere, just select it, delete, and it's gone from everywhere else that you've added it to. Okay, so that is Shift Z. Okay, Google Sites. Now, you may have put a lot of work into Google Sites. I won't spend too much time on this because I don't know that all of you have created a Google site. All right, see you later. For those of you who have to leave, no worries. If you've put a lot of time and effort into your Google site and you've now created pages and pages and pages of content that you may not necessarily want, let's go here. This is a site that I've created for my Concordia students, but it's all of it's there. And for next year, when I start with the new group of students, I don't want it all to be showing to the students. So in your Google site, look down in the bottom right-hand corner. If you own it and you're signed into Chrome, you should see this little edit button. So you're going to edit this, and basically what you're going to do is one thing for sure, and maybe a second thing, but it's super, super easy. What we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to go over to the Pages section. Here are all the pages. I don't want to delete these, but I can hide them from the navigation. Notice that when you create a new page, anytime you create a new page, it just adds it to the navigation so people can get to it. If I don't want people to get to it, I'm just going to hover over the page, see the little three dots, and choose Hide from Navigation. It puts a little line through it, and it takes it off of the navigation. Okay. Now, on my home page, I made these little buttons that hyperlink to the different pages. So the page still exists. The page website address still exists. It's just not on the navigation. So if I've hyperlinked something to go to that page, I'm going to now delete that hyperlink. Does that make sense? So I'm going here to this particular one. When I click on it, it's showing me this hyperlink here, and I'm just going to hit delete. So I didn't delete the picture, I just deleted the hyperlink. Does that make sense? So now when I publish this page, that week 2 is gone, and it's not hyperlinked there either. Okay? Bye, Simi. So you can do that for as many of these pages as you want. Hide from the navigation. Go over to where, if you've created any buttons that are hyperlinked, and just remove, and then just hit publish, and all of those changes will be made. And that's how you do it for Google Sites. All right, let's think again to next year. I know I'm 1 minute from going to overtime here, so I'll just make this really quick. Next year in Google Classroom, hey, see these cool words in here? Okay, did you notice that? I was using a cool font up there. Remember this emoji keyboard? Remember this emoji keyboard extension? Check it out. It links to another tool that they have created called Fancy Text. And when I click that, it opens up this site, and I can type whatever I want. Language arts. And then look at it. Look at all these cool ways I can have language arts. So let's say I want this text. I'm going to now copy it. I can paste that text anywhere, on a website, in a document, or in my Google Classroom. Maybe I want to rename one of my topics. Look at, see how swaggy math looks? So I can just go over any one of my topics, choose rename, and I'm basically gonna Control V to paste in that new thing that I just made with the cool fonts online. I will copy this URL for you if you just want to try this. And there it is. I put it in my topics, but you can put it anywhere you want. So if you want to make it look nice, you can certainly do that. Now, in your Google Classroom, you might have, I've created a brand new Google Classroom for my students, and I want to reuse some of the assignments I did from last year. So to do that in the Classwork tab, just go to Create, and then go to Reuse Post. You can now, it'll ask you to pick a Google Classroom you'd like to reuse from, so even if you've archived it, it'll show up here on your list. Okay, and then basically pick which thing you want to reuse and click Reuse. What it'll do is it'll bring it to you in draft form. All of the description, all of the attachments, if you had any point value to it, if it was assigned to a topic, so you can change any of this that you want. Do whatever you want to it, and then hit the Assign button, or my favorite, Schedule, to schedule that to appear on your Google Classroom when you're ready. So that's an interesting way to do it one at a time, one activity at a time. Now, you may have a Google Classroom that is so awesome, you just want to copy the whole thing. Well, you can. So all you do on that Google Classroom is hit the three dots next to it and choose Copy. It'll copy the entire thing, and what it will do, I've just made this copy, so I'll show you what it looks like. It doesn't, nobody's in your Google Classroom yet, okay? And even if they were, what it would show is in the classwork section, all of the postings and assignments and materials and everything else. See how it's grayed out? It's all in draft form. So nothing is there. Nothing is posted. So at any point in time, if you're ready to start allowing students to see some of this, you click on it and choose Edit. And then basically make whatever changes, and then click Assign, and then it's going to show up on your Google Classroom. Okay, so there it is. Whoops, let me go back. So that is how you do it. So once again, click on all your classes, find which Google Classroom. So if you and a group of colleagues have worked hard on a website, on a Google Classroom, and you've loaded in a whole bunch of cool activities and you're all set and ready to go, you can now add other teachers in there, okay? Let's take a look at a sample. So what I've added other teachers in. Now these other teachers can make a copy of their own as well. So it's a handy way to do it. And by the way, remember that tip I was talking to you about in terms of, I own this class, but now I'm going to go on a maternity leave or a medical leave. If I've added in another co-teacher, I can now go to this People tab and choose this and go Make Class Owner. So now that person owns it if I'm not ever coming back to it. Okay, so the question is, does it copy the stream? No, it doesn't. So that is why I caution you against using the stream as a regular way of posting resources to your students. If you ever wish to make a copy of your Google Classroom, you can't reuse a post that you've posted to your stream. The only thing that you can copy and reuse is stuff in your classwork. Okay. I don't know of a way to archive individual assignments, like to move it back into draft form, for example, or archive it such that it grays out. It would just be a matter of deleting it. Okay, so I don't know if that's a really great option for you or an interesting option. The final thing I have shared with you here is, I won't spend much time on this, but the awesome people at Slides Mania have created sort of a sample template in case in your Google Classroom you may want to customize your own banner. And so they've given you a sample. They've given one for Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, a whole bunch of them. If you scroll down, you'll see for Google Classroom. And all you do is click on Google Classroom header template. then use the template. It'll open up in Google Slides. And she's got 3 templates there for you. She's got this one. They're all editable, and it's basically a Google slide. So there's this one. There's this second one with puzzle pieces, and then there's this third one. Okay, and all these things are editable, right? This is just a little icon of a spaceship. And so you can find different pictures and put them in there. Whenever you're ready, File, Download, and then choose JPEG or PNG. Doesn't really matter. I choose PNG. And it'll just do it to the current slide, okay? And then in Google Classroom, you basically choose the upload photo in your stream. And then you'll be able to upload your own custom picture to go into that banner. Now, they have some really beautiful ones now, but just in case. Yeah. So the other thing that I'll stick around for any questions you might have around Google Classroom or any of this next year stuff, but that is basically it. If you are interested, on Friday, I'm going to be leading a step-by-step session on how to create your own kind of virtual classroom in Google Slides that is hyperlinked to things like online books or online activities, and include your own Bitmoji in there. And I'll be doing a 45-minute session this Friday, 11:45 to 12:30. We'll go step by step. We won't cover a tremendous amount of stuff. We'll just get you started, but we'll go nice and slow. Okay. I will post both of these sessions. Will be recorded, and they'll be uploaded back to our Sked site. So in about a half an hour, when you mouse over this, you'll be able to see the recording for this session. I'll do the same for Friday. So thank you so much for joining. I'll give you that short URL once again. I'm sorry to keep you over time. But there it is, bit.ly/ATAGC cleanup. If you have any more questions, you could stick around. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining, everybody. If I see you Friday, great. If not, thank you so much for joining us on this journey, joining me with some of these live PD sessions. And I really hope our paths cross again really soon.